Hello friends! The trip to Sigacik will consist of 2 videos. This is the first part, in which we will walk together with you among the ruins of the ancient city of Teos. And in the second part, we will walk along the bright streets of Sigacik. This is the coastal area of the Turkish city of Seferihisar, with a harbor and beaches. So, let's start, and welcome to Teos. On such a dusty stone road, passing among olive trees and august desert landscapes, our journey to the ruins of the ancient city of Teos begins. Ancient Teos was known as the city of Dionysus, the god of wine, abundance, theater, and celebration, and was founded on the coast of western Anatolia in the region that was called Ionia in ancient times. In ancient Greece, the theater originally was a way to honor the god Dionysus, and the road successfully takes you and me to the first landmark on our way, the ruins of the theater. The ancient theater of Teos is one of the most impressive preserved buildings in the city. Built on the slope of the hill, the theater was oriented towards the southern harbor, providing the audience with a beautiful view of the sea, in addition to the action on stage. The construction of the theater began in the Hellenistic period, but a significant part of the preserved structures dates back to the Roman era, which emphasizes the long history of its use and modernization. The theater's cavea, which is a semicircular tribune, was divided into 2 parts, upper and lower. The lower part rested on the natural slope of the hill, while the upper part was supported by a vaulted gallery, which is a feature of Roman architecture. Through such a gallery, people got into the theater from above, and after passing through such vomitoriums, they took their seats. The theater belongs to medium-sized theaters and probably held about 7,000 spectators. Numerous architectural blocks discovered during the excavations indicate that the stage has at least 2 floors, and the theater itself was decorated with columns and friezes depicting scenes from mythology and history. Ruins and remnants of columns are laid out in front of the theater. I will assume that these are the ruins of the theater. I didn't find any signs explaining what was what. The skill of ancient masons is certainly amazing. At first glance, it's just a stone, but when you start to look more closely, you ask yourself questions. How ancient masons did that? What tools did they use? And how much time was spent to carve out all this beauty from the stone? For example, there are so many details on this piece of stone, and despite the complex geometry, all the lines are smooth and even the edges have a shape with rounded edges. It's hard to believe that all this was done with just a hammer and chisel. Plus, it was often the decor that was at a height, at a big distance from the eyes. But despite this, the ancient masons did such a small details and patterns. It's just crazy. Among the ruins, such pillars were stuck here. I did not understand what it is, but if you have any ideas, write in the comments. Behind the theater is the Acropolis of Teos. In ancient Greek cities, the Acropolis was called the elevated and fortified part of the city, usually located on a hill, the so-called upper city. The Acropolis is the site of the original settlement, around which the less protected lower town developed. The foundation of the temple and the altar that belonged to this temple have been preserved to this day, as well as the remains of the city wall that surrounds these structures from the eastern part of the hill. The Acropolis usually had temple of the patron deities of the city, but it's unknown to whom this temple was actually dedicated. The piles of stones that I show are essentially all that remains of the Acropolis, and there is not much to see here. Therefore, we do not stay here for a long time and go on. Teos prospered during the Golden Age of Ionia. During the Hellenistic period, it repeatedly stood out in the historical arena and played an important role in the region, being not only a religious and cultural center, but also an important trading hub and a place where crafts and art developed. The same road with olive trees leads us to the next attraction of the complex, a huge olive tree. The sign says that this is Grandma Umai's tree. Mother or Grandmother Umai is the oldest female deity among the Turkic and Mongolian nations, was considered a good spirit, patroness of children and pregnant women. Umai embodies the sacred connection between nature and humanity. The veneration of trees in Turkic mythology was closely intertwined with the concept of motherhood. Just as the earth is renewed every spring, the cycle of life continues through women. It was written in the internet that this tree is 1,800 years old. Can you imagine? I also found the news that half a liter of olive oil from the fruits of this tree was sold for 22,000 lira at auction in 2017, which at that rate was around $6,000. Isn't that crazy? And the next point of our walk will be the Bouleuterion, the Agora, and the ruins of the Temple of Rome and Augustus. Along the way, we come across such tangerine groves. Despite the fact that the tangerines are still green, I barely overcame the desire to pick one and try it. By the end of autumn, they will have to ripen, by the way. We pass through the grove and find ourselves at the Agora. This was the name of the market square in ancient Greek cities and a place of gatherings. There was also a Bouleuterion, an administrative building of ancient times, where meetings of the city council were held. Important political and public issues were discussed. The Bouleuterion was also used for educational purposes, which is emphasized by the finds of inscriptions indicating that exams and lectures were held in this building. The Bouleuterion, despite numerous reconstructions and alterations, has been preserved the best among all the buildings of the city. But, unfortunately, due to the restoration work, you can't get close to it at this moment, so I'm showing it to you from a drone. And here, if I understood correctly, the ruins of the Bouleuterion are laid out. Not as elegant as the ruins of the theater, after all. The building was much serious and strict, but there are notable moments here. If you look closely, you can see such elements, with amazing clarity of lines. It was as if a milling cutter had been used to make such smooth curves. It's amazing! In your opinion, how did the ancient masons made such elements? Share your ideas in the comments. A little further away is the Temple of Roma and Augustus. Here, as we can see, excavations are still underway. There is almost no information about this temple, but as you can understand from its name, it was built during the Roman Empire. The height of the soil layer, which turned out to be filled in the temple, is noteworthy. There is about half a meter of soil. Unfortunately, there is little left of the temple itself except the foundation. I hope that its original appearance will be restored from the remains of columns and decor someday in future. Well, we leave this part of the complex and head with you to the exit and the final attraction, the Temple of Dionysus. The Temple of Dionysus was one of the main places in the city and was a complex including a temple and altars. Dionysus, the patron of Teos, took a central place in the religious life of the city, and his cult was closely connected with the theatrical and musical performances that took place in the city. To this day, little remains of the temple, and unfortunately it is still impossible to see what has been preserved. The entire temple is fenced off, the excavations have not yet been completed. Therefore, we look over the fence from afar and head for the exit. In Teos, you can also see the remains of the city wall and the ruins of the ancient South Harbor. There were 2 of them in Teos. But there, you will also have to use your imagination a lot to fantasize what the ancient port looked like. So I decided that it would be better if we took a look at the northern harbor, on the site of which the modern Sigacik district is now located, and I'll show it to you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe, put a like and comment if you enjoyed this video, and see you soon on new adventures.